The March 17th meeting of the Colerain Township Zoning Commission will come to order. Would you all join me please in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Do we have a roll call, please?
Mr. Tchaikovsky?
Yes.
Mr. Taylor? Mr. Westfall?
Here.
And Ms. Smith?
Here. Okay, Mr. Brody, would you please join us? And Mr. Ferry, would you please join us? I'm sorry, I didn't see you back there. Okay, before we start, I would ask everyone to please silence their cell phone. Okay, the Zoning Commission of Colerain Township meets on the third Tuesday of each month at 7 p.m. in the Colerain Township Trustee Chamber, 4200 Springdale Road, Colerain Township, Ohio, 45251. Zoning Commission is a 5-member citizen commission appointed by the Board of Trustees. The commission reviews requests for zoning amendments, major amendments to preliminary or final development plans, informal concept plan reviews, and text amendments. For those of you who are not familiar with procedures listed below are brief explanations. Zoning amendment and major modification to a preliminary or final development plan, public hearing, zoning staff will make a presentation of the request. The applicant may also make a presentation. The meeting is then open for public comment. Comments should be 3 to 5 minutes with no redundancy. The public input is then closed. The Zoning Commission will have a discussion followed by a motion to recommend approval or denial of the request. The Commission will have a roll call vote. The recommendation will then be sent to the Board of Trustees. I think final development plan and a minor modification to a final development plan. Excuse me. The zoning staff will make a presentation of the request. The applicant may also make a presentation of the request. The Zoning Commission then will have a discussion followed by a motion to approve or deny the request. The Commission will then have a roll call vote. That's all we have tonight, so I won't read any of the other ones. Next on the agenda is approval of the minutes for the February 17th, 2015 minutes. Does anybody have any corrections or additions? And so appearing, the chair will entertain a motion to accept the minutes of the February 17th, 2015 meeting.
I'll make a motion that we approve the minutes as presented.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded that we accept the February 17th, 2015 meeting minutes. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried.
Mr. Chairman, I need to abstain because I was not present.
Okay. Please make that I'll put that on the record, please. Next on the agenda is a final development plan. I'm going to turn these around. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, there is one there. It is there. Okay, next on the agenda is the public address. This is where anybody who wants to address the commission about anything that is not on the agenda. Mr. Acton. Please state your name and address for the record.
This is on. Jim Acton, Wood Trail Drive, here in Colerain Township, been a resident for about 40 years. Mr. Chairman, just a couple of questions. I've tried numerous times on my computer get minutes of the 2015 meetings. Can anybody explain where you find them at?
Oh, they're on there. I look at them all the time.
I can fill that. So if you go to the document library on our website,
Okay,
all right, and then there's a folder there that's called Building, Planning, and Zoning.
okay,
And then there should be another folder underneath that that says zoning commission, and then meeting minutes.
Okay, I've been going to the homepage
Yep.
and flipping over to the government, and then where it says, different meetings,
Yes.
and hitting the zoning meetings there, and there's nothing there.
If you go to the, you have to
I
go
know
to the
where you're
document
talking
library.
about, yeah.
And we
I
can, and if you want to give me a call, I can walk you through it on the.
No, I know where you're talking about.
Yeah.
I've just thought they would be on that other page also.
Oh, okay. Yeah, no, they're located in the document library.
Reason why I asked that question, I've been wondering about the Kroger Final Development Plan. Is it available?
Yes.
It's also available at this time.
Yeah, so the Kroger Final Development Plan would be under probably the agenda packets as opposed to the minutes. The minutes are just going to be a text description of what went on at the meeting. In the agenda packet, that's where all of the materials that the commissioners get are available to anyone who wants to.
Okay.
Okay.
And Jeff, one other question that I've asked the trustees, I've sent them an email on this. Most of the information is available to these ladies and gentlemen Wednesday or Friday of last week. Can that be posted also for the citizens?
I'm not sure. We've got a timeline that's set in policy. I can. I don't know.
Well, I know the trustees, they generally get theirs Thursdays and Fridays.
Yeah.
We get it by noon
On Monday.
sometimes on Monday.
Yeah. That's when
We
we
have no-
release it
yeah.
to the public.
No, we have no time to prepare any rebuttal or any suggestions at that time.
I see.
And we're
Yeah.
cut down to 24 hours, and I hope the trustees do something about it.
I see.
Here again, I don't know.
Okay.
One other thing, I hope the board has something for Mr. Timmy. I hated to see him leave. I think he's an excellent gentleman and a good person for the township. I hope, besides the award that he got last week, the zoning people will do something for him also. And the final thing, he was good on irrigation. Mr. Westfall, it may be funny, but I hope someday that Colerain Township could look like Liberty Township out there, or Mason, instead of just all concrete. So I hope everybody has got that in the back of their mind about irrigation, because there's been some individuals come before you and they were forced to put irrigation in. But we have stereos now that people are not being forced to irrigate the trees and the flowers and the bushes. They're being made. That's all I got tonight, gentlemen and
Just
ladies.
as an explanation, Mr. Acton, at this point, irrigation is not covered in the zoning text,
Right.
and until we get it in there, there's nothing we can force them to do.
Okay, no, I agree with you,
Okay.
but I think it should be brought up,
It has been discussed.
and I hope it is done before 2016.
Maybe.
Hopefully. Thank you.
Now, final development plan, I'm going to switch these
Okay.
and do Forever Green before I do the other one. Next on the agenda is case number ZA 2001-04, Forever Green, a request for an extension of a final development plan. Staff?
Yeah, there isn't much of a presentation here. I mean, the applicant is requesting an extension for the final development plan. It was most recently approved in on May 22nd of 2014. This original case was brought before the Zoning Commission in 2001. So this idea has been kicked around for about 14 years now. But the applicant is requesting a one-year extension to take it through to 2016.
Does the applicant have anything he would like to say? Here's your chance.
My name is Tony Stevenson, 7582 Harrison Avenue. We are asking for the extension As most of you are aware, we've been working with the commission for the last year to get the development plan where we operate at to be approved. That was approved last November. And at that time, we did make sure that everyone was aware of the fact we would be concentrating on that first to make sure we bring that up to scale according to the plan in which that you guys did approve in November. And that is what we want to continue to concentrate on in this next year, is to work on that. And that's why we're asking for the extension on this one, so we can work on that one instead. And if anyone's seen the site, I think you can see that we're going with the plan that was approved in November, and we are actually making some headway with it. So hopefully it looks better than what it did. Okay?
Mr. Chirkowski, do you have anything you'd like to say?
No, I just don't want to be here the same time next year and get another year extension, because 14 years is long. So hopefully you get
We
it
went
done.
around all 14 years
I know,
now.
but I hope we get it done in this last extension.
So-
For me, it's okay.
Mr. Grody,
No question.
Mr. Fearing, Mrs. Smith?
No question.
Okay. The chair will entertain a motion to accept ZA 2001-04 for Evergreen request for a final development plan. Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion that we grant a one-year extension as requested for parcel ZA 2001-04 for Evergreen Corporation.
Is there a second? Do we have a roll call vote, please?
Mr. Chirkowski,
Yes,
Mr. Grody,
Yes.
Mrs. Smith,
Yes.
Mr. Fearing, Mr. Westfall.
Okay. Before, I'd like to make a little bit of a statement before I make my vote. Sometimes I get the feeling that he keeps coming back here to extend this just because he's not ready to start it yet. And for that reason, I'm voting nay.
Very good.
Motion carried. Next on the agenda is final development plan ZA 2014-09 for Chick-fil-A. Does staff have a report?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just wanted to take a second to recognize Julia Brodsky, who put together the staff report on this. She did a great job, and I'll be presenting it this evening. So the application that's in front of us tonight is the final development plan for Chick-fil-A, which is located in the outlot in front of Aldi at 9470 Colerain Avenue. The applicant proposes to construct approximately a 4,600 square foot restaurant, Chick-fil-A restaurant. It came before the Zoning Commission back in October for an informal concept hearing. It went to regional planning, who recommended the approval of the preliminary development plan in January by vote of 6-0. It came to you all in January of this year. The recommendation was to approve the preliminary development plan, and then went to the trustees, who who finally took the action and approved the preliminary development plan. So the last step in this process is to address the final development plan. The final development plan, you'll all recall, is where we look at the details of the plan, landscaping, lighting, parking, site planning, signage, etc., architectural detail, etc. So this is the aerial image of the subject property. Colerain Avenue is running north to south. This is Mall Drive right here. The Northgate Mall is across the street. This white roofed building is Aldi, and the location for the proposed Chick-fil-A is right at the corner of Mall and Colerain. The property is zoned planned development business. Again, we're right here. So the applicant provided a landscaping plan. That's in your packets. As we looked at the landscaping plan, the findings that, what we found was that due to the shape, we'll talk about the location here first, due to the shape of the right-of-way along Colerain Avenue, and I'll show you this little notch that's cut out of the property here. We have this irregularly shaped streetscape buffer, but the mean width of the streetscape buffer is approximately 15 feet. So we believe that it meets the intent of the streetscape buffer requirement. Now, on Mall Road, the trustees are permitting the applicant to make improvements to the grassed area that's located just off-site, just north of the site, within the right-of-way of Mall Road. So rather than shift the whole site southward by 15 feet, streetscape landscaping is going to be included within the right-of-way using a revocable permit. So we are hoping to accomplish, the same outcome, which is an attractive streetscape. The applicant proposes within the streetscape buffer on Colerain 7 trees, where 7 are required. The applicant proposes currently 3 trees on Mall Drive, where 5 are required. The applicant proposes 75 square feet of landscaped area on Colerain Avenue within the streetscape buffer area, where 265 square feet are required. The applicant proposes no landscaped area on Mall Drive, where 205 square feet are required. When we move from the streetscape buffer area to the lot buffer, to the parking area, that shouldn't say lot buffer, that should say parking area. We find that the applicant proposes to landscape approximately 11% of the parking area where 15% is required. The applicant proposes 2 parking islands, which we can see here on the map, one along Mall Drive and one along Colerain Avenue. The parking islands are required to have at minimum 1 tree and 2 shrubs. The parking island on Mall Road has no trees or shrubs, and the parking island on Colerain has 7 shrubs. So we'll need to make some adjustments there. The applicant proposes a parking island on Colerain that's approximately 7.5 feet in width, where 9 feet are required. So that rounds out our review of the landscaping plan. Moving on to lighting, the applicant provided a lighting plan, and the average illumination on across the parking area is 1.8 foot candles, where less than 2 foot candles are required. The applicant proposes site lighting to be mounted on 20-foot poles on a 2-foot base, which makes 22-foot lights, where the zoning requires 24 feet or less. That's our review of lighting. Moving on to the parking, the applicant proposes 39 parking spaces, 37 of which are regular spaces, 2 of which are handicap accessible spaces. The zoning resolution prescribes 15 spaces per 1,000 square feet of gross floor area, or in this case, 69 spaces. So the applicant proposes 30, less than the required number of spaces, and they're asking that those 30 be designated as shared parking. So the idea is that, while they can't meet their parking requirements on site, they would need a shared parking agreement to accommodate that parking. No shared parking agreement was submitted with the application. The applicant proposes parking stalls with dimensions ranging from 9 by 16.5 up on Colerain Avenue to and 9 by 18.5 over towards the front door of the restaurant. The minimum dimensions of the parking stall in the resolution are 9 by 19. The applicant proposes one 26-foot two-way drive aisle that would be located east of the building. That's proposed to be a 26-foot drive aisle. I guess that would be west of the building, and one 28.7-foot two-way drive aisle to the north of the building. The minimum two-way drive aisle dimension is 24 feet, so they meet that. The applicant does not show the number of stacking spaces for the two drive-through aisles. A minimum of 8 stacking spaces per lane are required. Subsequent to the publishing of this staff report, the applicant has provided stacking spaces and shows that there are in excess of 8 stacking spaces. That's parking. Moving on to signage, the applicant is proposing 4 wall signs where 2 are permitted. 2 of the 4 wall signs are proposed to be 7 feet 1 inch in height, where the maximum is 4 feet in height. In terms of freestanding signage, the applicant proposes a new monument sign on Colerain Avenue, located right here on the site plan. The site has an existing non-conforming freestanding sign. I'm sure you can't miss it. It's massive. It's huge, and it greatly exceeds the maximum signage for the site. So, staff's recommendation is to make use of the existing sign and not permit any new freestanding signage on the site. Let's see. The applicant, so the proposed monument sign was 80 square feet in area, 15 feet in height. As we look at, let's see here. Here are the elevations, the proposed elevations for the building. They're a little dark on this slide, but it's a sharp modern building. And as we look at the impervious surface ratio on the site site currently is nearly completely paved, right? It's a parking lot. So the site currently has an impervious surface ratio of approximately 98%, which means that 98% of it is impervious. The proposed site has an ISR of 82.4%. So that's a big reduction in ISR. However, the maximum ISR in the planned development business district is 75%. The dumpsters were an issue early on in the development of this project, but they have now been appropriately located on the southeastern corner of the site and are properly screened. In terms of architectural design standards for the building, the zoning resolution requires that the building have three-dimensional cornice treatments that extend at least 8 inches from the parapet facade plane. The zoning resolution requires that all roof-based mechanical equipment be screened from view with a parapet wall and a cornice. It's not clear from the drawings that the mechanicals are appropriately screened. I don't believe that the mechanicals were shown on the drawings. The applicant proposes 16.67% open space on the property. That exceeds the required 15%, and the applicant provided a parking analysis of the larger site. So, with all that in mind, the staff recommends approval of the final development plan with the following conditions and variances. That we shorten the width of those drive aisles to address the issue of parking stall length. Our suggestion is to shorten the width of the drive aisle to 24 feet, which would allow the parking stalls on either side of the drive aisle to be 19 feet. Second condition would be that the applicant shall illustrate the required number of stacking spaces on the drive-through aisles per section 13.5.1 of the zoning resolution. That they have submitted a drawing showing the stacking spaces as of today. The third condition would be that any roof-based mechanical equipment that may be visible shall be screened from view per section 12.11 of the zoning resolution. The fourth condition would be that wall signage on the north and west elevation shall not exceed 4 feet in height per section 15.8.2 D2, and that the additional wall signage that's being requested on the south and the east elevation not be permitted. The fifth condition would be that the applicant shall obtain a revocable license from the township to make landscaping improvements within the right-of-way, and that will address the streetscape buffer area on the north or Mall Drive. The sixth condition would be that the applicant shall update the landscaping plan to show 5 trees and 205 square feet of landscaped area in the landscaped portion of Mall Road. Thanks. The applicant shall update the landscaping plan to show 265 square feet of landscaped area in the streetscape buffer yard on Colerain Avenue. The landscaping plan should be updated to show a minimum of 1 tree and 2 shrubs in each parking island. The site plan should be updated to show parking islands with a minimum width of 9 feet. The applicant shall comply with the rules found in section 13.4.7 B of the zoning resolution related to shared parking. What that means is the applicant should provide a legal agreement between Chick-fil-A and the owner of the parking lot that surrounds it to guarantee us that parking is in fact permitted to be shared there. And then the final condition being that no additional freestanding signage shall be added to the site. We recommend 3 variances also. Variance from the ISR requirement of 75% to allow the 82.4% impervious surface ratio. Variance from section 14.6.1, which is the minimum landscaping requirement for the parking area. This would allow the applicant to install landscaping in the parking area as shown, despite the fact that it covers only 11% of the parking area rather than the 15%. And then finally, a variance is recommended from section 12.11.1, which deals with the architectural design standards, and recommendation is that the building shall be permitted as shown so long as rooftop mechanicals are screened from view. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions or...
Thank you.
Sure.
Mrs. Smith, do you have any questions?
Well, I do want to start off with asking about the lighting plan that you got lighting. It's a sign. You're gonna have a changeable, well, this question is not for Jeff, it's for the Chick-fil-A.
Sure, well, maybe,
Well,
maybe,
right, yeah. Do you have a presentation?
I would like.
Okay, I'm sorry.
If you may, I would present.
I skipped right over it.
To answer your question. If not, I can answer it after.
You can come up and make your presentation. I'm sorry.
How's that?
Yeah.
Good evenings. My name is Blair Carmesino with Wolpert. With me tonight is Doug Leaning. Office is located at, let me get my 4554 Idea Center Boulevard out of Dayton, Ohio. I will be brief. Thank you, Jeff, for your thorough and complete presentation. I'd like to address the conditions they noted and talk from those in order, if I may. So if you have your staff packet, the recommendations conditions section. And Jeff, could I bother you to put up our site plan? Yes, I think that one would. So I'd like to speak first to the shortening of the width of the drive aisles and not to less than 24 feet. This is situated in an integrated center, and it's a very, very tight site. You'll see on a detailed site plan, I don't know if it's not reaching, but the western parking stalls are currently shown at 16.5, which we've worked with staff on. That drive aisle then has a dimension of 26 feet, a wider drive aisle than code. Then we fit 18.5-foot stalls and then go into the building. We took that approach after discussing and looking at several different options. We'd like for consideration of the car overhang over the west curb line. It's important for Chick-fil-A to have the wide drive aisles for their customers. So essentially, we're trading a drive aisle width for a parking stall length. Plus, we've got green space on the extreme eastern side of the site that if pushing to meet compliance with the parking stall dimensions, we would have to eat into that green space. So we would like consideration for leaving the drive aisles and the parking stall dimensions as shown. It works for Chick-fil-A. It preserves the green space, and it provides for a wider drive aisle for maneuvering and customers walking across the drive aisle. And I don't know if it's best that if we ask questions relating to that or whether I continue through and we save questions till the end. I guess the former is the best way to go. So.
I guess we're going to look at it one by one. I understand your argument, but I think we can go to 24 and have 19-foot aisles or 19-foot parking stalls. Plus, you've got a 5-foot sidewalk with a 9-foot something for the outside eating area, which could be reduced by 1 foot per. And you have a 4-foot, and then still have your 19-foot, and be able to allocate all those parking spaces. I'm just speaking just to get it out there. So I think you can be comfortable with the 24 and still get the 19 for Jeff's recommendations, as well as on the north side for 27, 27. I think there's some leeway in that to be able to do that.
We do have some wiggle room.
Plus, you've got 4 feet on that back end over there where you can probably be shorten that a little bit.
You're talking the green space strip to the right of the drive aisle?
Yeah, and I know shifting it over a little bit might cause some of the elevations to knock things down much, but.
Well, I'm not so worried about the elevations, just when you start getting to a 3-foot wide landscape island.
We're looking for inches here.
I understand, and I think maybe somewhere in between is where we go 18 and a half on the parking stalls. Try to maximize the parking stalls at the expense of the drive width, and then we can look at the patio. But I think if we go to full 19, we're encroaching, starting to push everything to the east, which will eat up that green space. And I appreciate where you're coming from and difficulty of this.
44 is typical for everywhere, so I mean.
I don't disagree.
And I know everybody would love to have 30-foot driveways just because, but
Mm-hmm.
if we're looking for inches, then we're looking for inches here.
Okay.
And just so I put it out there, all the conditions and variances, I agree with the report, so from now on, I don't have to keep repeating that.
Okay.
Anyone else have any questions?
Yes,
Okay.
I'm looking at changeable message board. Is that gonna be like a flashing light, or is this gonna be a board with?
I believe it's a manual copy. And again, I haven't addressed signs, but we can talk about the monument sign in item 11. So if I may, I can stop and hit signs, or I can continue down the sequence of the conditions or recommendations. So, and I'm not putting you off. I will get to it, I promise.
That's fine. We
Okay.
usually do the 4 presentations then questions.
Well, and, okay, then I'll continue through all the other items noted then. Condition 2 was articulating the stacking spaces, which we've submitted that, and I believe was satisfied, the conditions, so that, I believe, is no longer an issue. Roof-based equipment will be screened, and I can produce an exhibit at the zoning certificate review that'll show those dashed in. They will be screened from the adjacent right-of-ways as noted in the code, so we will have that addressed. Wall signage, item 4, I will bump down and add to a discussion when we get to item 11, so I'm not forgetting that. So let's go to number 5, which the applicant shall retain a revocable license from the township to make landscaping improvements within the right-of-way per condition number 4. We have no problems getting that condition. There is a discussion to be had about the trees in the mall right-of-way and why we proposed 3 as opposed to 5, which I'll hit. In the very next one, 5 trees are requested by staff in the mall right-of-way or by code in the mall right-of-way. You don't happen to have our site plan with all the utilities out there, do you? Mall Drive is encumbered with underground gas line that is located as best we can right now. We don't know the exact location. Those utility locates, I think, guarantee within plus or minus 2 feet. You've got a 15-foot easement that parallels Mall Drive right-of-way that encumbers the site. And then there's some electrical lines out there as well. So our desire to cut 2 trees out of that requirement is not so much that we want to cut 2 trees. It becomes, do we want to put a root system around the existing gas main? Now, maybe one possible alternative to this is we could commit to, if we can find the room, and once we locate the gas main precisely and we have a crew going out to pothole it, if we can find the room for adding 4, 5 trees, we'll be happy to do so, but our concern is loading up the right-of-way that's encumbered with utilities with tree root systems. It's not the opposition to the total trees, it's what's underground that they may grow into.
I think that makes sense. Doug, would you mind just coming on up here?
Just wanted to add that we've been looking at shifting around some utility services that will interfere with the Mall Road right-of-way even further, and that 3 trees may be reduced to 2 trees based on what we're currently laying out utility-wise. So we'd like to provide equivalent plantings, be it shrubbery or landscape area, and make sure that it looks nice. So just wanted to add that.
I think you're referencing the Duke Energy information we found today. Our sanitary feed is up the northeast corner of the site and comes in. So we have a sanitary line that's going to be coming in. Our water line will be extended along Mall Drive off the northeast corner and then come in and enter the site. And we're trying to find a spot for the vault, the water vault. Electric will also come in from a power pole that will be located generally at the northeast line and come down and feed the back end of the building. So those three utilities will encumber in there. But again, Doug says 2. I want to try to find a spot for 3, and if we can find it more. And what's critical is when I get those gas main, the existing gas main that's running parallel, potholed and exactly located. So if we can have the authority or the ability to work directly with staff as administrative final review of the total trees out there.
Water vault in there, which I'm looking at this corner.
Yep, and
we're
that,
talking all the way up to here.
we're, now
Are we
we've,
still holding the water vault here, or
no,
trying to put
the
it
water,
over here?
that has changed in the last week. The water service is jockeying all the utilities. If I may approach and
Sure.
point.
You're talking about, you have the 4-inch gas line here that's going to be in the way?
Yeah, that's.
Is this a problem for us?
This is the electric. The gas line rides, no, that's the gas, okay, that's a 4-inch gas. Currently, it's owned by Plan and that's the utility. Those ones go second line street goes, so we're gonna pothole it, between the second goes this way, then the trees could be pushed back this way. The water service, the sanitary is now split. Okay. Our sanitary is flipped
So the water vault went from here to there?
right in here, and we're still working with that.
So you're worried about the gas line over here, but you're squeezing it in between.
And what you have right here is
What
a
is that?
15-foot gas easement that's already
Okay.
encumbering the site that we are not allowed to put that in.
Oh, okay.
Then
And what's the
we've got
gas line right here? There's no.
This is the outside limit of the 15-foot easement.
Okay.
Here's the overhead electric line.
That's great.
Here's the power pole. It's gonna be probably pad mounted transformer that's gonna come down the side of the building and feed it back. So we have 3 utility poles coming in this way now. And like I said, I would love to put the 5 in and maybe they started encroaching up here. But I don't wanna commit to trees up here that would become an issue with the taper lane and squeeze by the gas main.
Yeah, but the trees, Jeff, do they have to stay behind the property line of Chick-fil-A, or can they go backwards a little bit instead of having to go west with 2 more into the taper lane?
Right, so that was the issue. The issue originally was, there's a 15-foot streetscape buffer area that's required, okay? And the reason that we couldn't get the 15-foot streetscape buffer area on this site was because of this utility easement that extends 15 feet off of the north property line. So to accommodate that issue, we proposed putting the streetscape buffer area landscaping actually into the right of way, and
Are we just talking about land?
both, yeah. And maybe it's a situation where we offset the trees with with landscaped area or something like that. I mean, the ultimate goal here is to have an attractive streetscape that looks nice. Now there are realities of pipes in the ground and in all the wrong places, it seems. So I would be comfortable, if you're comfortable with working with the applicant to maximize the landscaped area, including trees on the site, to the maximum extent practicable.
I don't want to waste your time over 2 trees. So if
One more question. If this was an issue, Did we get oops out there or underground detectives to figure out, just to see where the lines are? before
That,
we proceed
that
with
was
all
step
this and
one,
come in here?
underground locates, but if you look at what they guarantee, plus or minus 2 feet. The next step was pulling the as-bills, which we've done. Next step, which we haven't pulled yet, is getting the contractor to actually pothole the daggone thing and find the physical location. Now, rather than argue over 2 trees, if it's okay, we'll commit to the 5, providing we can go further south or east of our lease line, seeing it's in township right away. If the township has no issue with it, let's go with the 5 trees and we'll try to find a spot for it. I can't guarantee there's nothing, we didn't survey that far. Can't guarantee there's not more messes down that way, but we'll definitely work to try to get those in.
I'd like the 3 minimum 5.
Yeah.
Eastward.
Sounds good.
All right.
That sounds
At
good.
least for me.
Yep.
We updated the landscaping plan to demonstrate the square footage. Is that correct, Doug? Item 6 of our conditions, or 7?
I had begun to prepare an exhibit today just to indicate, and this landscape plan is not current. We're still changing things around based on our latest utility layout. And what I had prepared was something that indicated landscape areas within both Colerain and Mall. And, you know, it's still in flux, and, you know, obviously just from what we were just speaking about, it's still in flux. But our intent is to meet those landscape planting areas. I think Colerain should not be a problem. We should be able to meet that area, and also the planting area in Mall. We can provide that as well. I think the big issue is the trees on Mall, and it sounds like we've come to an agreement on that.
Very good.
And we'll add that the changes we're talking about, this ball band, the complexity of the power pole, will actually add an island in the northeast corner. So we'll actually add green space once we get this logistic mess of utilities figured out. That's the current plan.
I apologize, but trying to corral the utilities down to early in the game is often difficult. Minimum, I'm on item 8 now, application to update landscaping plan to show a minimum of 1 tree and 2 shrubs in each parking island. Again, if you study the parking islands with existing utilities, we put them in where we can, particularly that big void parking island up there. If you, do you have a site plan?
Yeah, it has, there's overhead utilities.
Power poles, power lines in there, and we can't do it.
It makes sense to make that a variance.
So, we did revise the site plan to show parking island widths to meet 9 feet, so we have revised that, and we meet parking island widths of 9 feet. Regarding number 10, applicants should comply with the rules found in 13.47. As staff spoke to, we have a shared parking agreement with the landlord that we'll prepare and share with the city. I was unable to get my hands on it before and talk through it with Chick-fil-A, but in a conversation, they said, yeah, we do have, so we will get that. Last but not least, your favorite signs. We did propose 4 building wall-mounted signs on this facility and a monument sign. And we understand the township's concern of eye litter, if you will, along Colerain Avenue. So in discussions with Chick-fil-A today, they would be willing to, if the board would consider this, remove the monument sign completely from the petition and have no ground monument sign. However, they would ask for consideration of 3-sided building signage. A sign on the north as proposed, a sign on the west facing Colerain as proposed, and a sign on the south as proposed. And they would prefer if they can maintain the signs as dimensioned. There's one, I believe the square Chick-fil-A logo is currently dimensioned at 7 feet, which exceeds the 4-foot requirement. their theory on this consideration is obviously visibility on a busy corridor. If they can keep the size signs as proposed on the north, west, and south face, they would eliminate the rear sign completely, which would be the west face, or east facing sign, I'm sorry, and the monument sign altogether. And I know your question was on the reader board, and I just took that away. I'm so sorry.
Well, I'll take an answer to that.
So we would ask for consideration of that change for the signage.
Is it gonna be planted or is it just gonna be?
Gonna be,
The reader board sign,
Yes.
if it were to stay, I believe it's a hand copy backlit reader board that has manual changes in it. It's not an electronic.
So there's no flashing light?
No.
Okay.
any questions?
Jeff, the light fixtures that they presented are where, and are we still asking for the township to refer to that on Colerain?
Yes. Okay, so that's an important point that I completely neglected to make. The streetscape lighting will be consistent with the rest of the corridor. So it'll be 70 feet on center. A number of streetscape luminaires will be included, which is fantastic. And then the on-site lighting, is that what was your other question?
This is on-site lighting.
Yeah, yep.
Question was
Yes, definitely, absolutely, yep.
And, not to be difficult, I think you have a prominence right on that corner, south and north. Like I said, I agree with all the conditions and variances, and I really don't think we need such a big sign, a 7-foot tall sign. I'd still like to see just 2 signs, and just because of where it is, it's not pushed back like all these or jacks or anybody. I think you'll have ample visibility there, so that's my comment about the signs.
To give you a little bit of background on the Aldi sign, the Aldi sign is actually a 12-foot sign, and it received a variance, and the Board of Zoning Appeals that granted the variance took into consideration the fact that it was set back 300 feet from the road. So
So that's my reason for this, because it's that prime corner. I think everybody, just like McDonald's across the street, everybody knows McDonald's, but they don't do arches anymore. And then the other thing, I think on this drawing, where, I think, are these louvers, the screen? I think the louvers are those louvers here? Are those the screen louvers for the mechanicals? I believe so. Yeah, this illustration here, Jack,
oh yeah, okay.
these louvers are what the screen.
That was the
those are
screen.
mechanical
Got it.
screens, and I think they're gonna be the same color as the
Yep.
building, or?
Yeah, it's integrated with the overall color scheme. Unfortunately, our color printer
Okay.
didn't generate but I think we submitted a digital.
Yeah, we've got it. Yep.
Demonstrates how that color ties with the overall scheme.
Yeah, I think it showed, because this doesn't have notes on it, I think what you showed, it was dark, but it
Yeah.
did noting on there. But
Right.
basically showed the screens for the mechanical system.
Yeah, right there.
It's tough to.
Yeah, it's hard in that scale, yeah.
On the island with the utility pole, the power pole, are you removing the bollards around it that are kind of weird now? And just,
Be protected by curb. We'll have a barrier curb now, so.
I'm just asking if you're gonna remove it, because the curb is gonna be moved around. And all that's gonna be concrete?
That's providing we don't start doing the utility when it comes out that far back, but if so, we'll try to paint them or something, but our goal is to remove it. We don't want those sticking up.
That's it? Thanks.
Mr. Grody?
I'm looking at this piece with the yellow coloration on it. Can you explain that notch on here? That's what I don't understand.
That's the irregular state right of way that you mentioned in the staff report. And came in, the Colerain for some reason took that in that fashion. I don't know the history of it.
For some reason, that little notch is a part of the state of Ohio's right-of-way. So the state of Ohio owns that, and it's just an irregular shape, and it's odd. I don't know. Colerain Avenue right-of-way is odd if you look at it. It goes like this all the way down. Yeah.
Mr. Faring? Mrs. Smith?
I asked
Okay. I have no questions. Would the chair, do we need a discussion?
I've got one more statement.
Okay.
Please, no flags, no signs, that we're open, at sales, at these big, long sailing things out in the yard, signs, things of that nature. Please, think having for a zoning code.
In that, okay.
Please, just making a statement before you guys get reported. Everybody loves to have them on Colerain, but I know you guys want to open up and want to say grand opening, we're open, and things of that nature, but.
I will deliver that message. When they open, I'll probably be doing one of these in Wisconsin, so.
Okay, is there any more discussion?
Mr. Turkowski, you had, one of your most latest comments was on the signage that you recommended 2 sides of the building.
Yeah.
Which 2 sides?
The sides that are recommended.
North and
the
west.
Side and the north side?
Correct.
Yes.
Would there be consideration if we could knock those 7-foot signs, Chick-fil-A logo, north and south side, captured in high vol?
Say that again, I guess. Part of it.
The 7-foot signs are that are out of conformance with height regulations of the signs, are on the north and south edges of the building to capture the major traffic arterial flow. Would there be consideration if we could reduce that to a 4-foot sign on those elevations to still have signage on the north, south, and then west? If we brought the 2 that are out of conformance size-wise into conformance size-wise?
Personally, I'm still gonna stick to my guns on having the north and the west side signs going to zoning regulations. Because I think on that corner, you're prominent enough to be seen from all sides. It's not like there's, again, setback like Aldi's or Jack's or anybody else back there. So
Okay.
I'm gonna stick with that.
Still ask the question of the other commissioners, so noted, and I appreciate your stance on it.
Is there any more discussion?
Before we call for a motion, Mr. Chairman, Jeff, could you kind of summarize?
Yes.
I think maybe good for all of us.
Thanks. Yes. So I think that what I heard was condition number 6, which deals with the landscaping along Mall Road and the streetscape buffer yard. That condition will be changed to read, applicant shall update the landscaping plan to show 5 trees and 205 square feet of landscaped area in the landscape portion of Mall Road, and then permitting those 5 trees to be planted to the east of the site as utilities allow. That would be number 6. And then we would be changing condition 8, which relates to the landscaping plan showing a minimum of 1 tree and 2 shrubs in each parking island. We would be eliminating the 1 tree and granting a variance for that because it sits underneath overhead utilities. So instead of the 1 tree, that would be that utility pole would be surrounded by landscaped area, shrubs and low.
Which I think we demonstrated.
Yes, right. The most recent one that I saw, yeah. So those are the 2 changes that I caught. Everything else appears to be, with the exception of the disagreement over the signs, but the signs will remain. My understanding is the signs will remain as presented in the staff report. 2 signs, 4 feet tall, on the north and the west.
Are we ready?
Does that sound right?
Yeah, but I have an additional
Okay.
comment to the owner.
Yes.
Come up. Because I don't want to, you seem to have not you personally, but somebody keeps you in the parking lot with a big truck and car trailer.
A car trailer, yes, yes.
Can we tell that
We've
person
made many attempts to try to locate who that is, and you're right. And sometimes they're over on the side by the Studio Vapes, and sometimes they're out front. Chick-fil-A will solve that problem. They won't be out front
Yeah, I saw
anymore.
the truck running,
It has a black pickup truck
it's a black pickup truck. I
attached
passed
to
by
it.
there every morning around 5:30, and I did see it running on the
Yeah.
line. I saw it twice without saying, but it's not my.
Yeah, we've had, our landscape guy has actually talked to the fella, but he apparently didn't think the lawn mowing guy had any authority to do anything, so, yeah.
Yeah, feel free to
Yeah,
call the
that-
police.
okay,
Yeah, the
yeah.
police are,
We
doing our code
we
enforcement.
don't like to enforce towing in that center, but I'd be happy to get that truck out of the way, yeah.
Yeah, and you know, we had already had the conversation about the, while the renovations were going on to Jack's and Shoe Carnival. Yeah, those trailers were out front, and we
Yeah,
had a
they're
conversation, that problem got solved
they're
immediately.
gone.
So,
Yep.
you know, I don't doubt that we'll be able to solve it.
And just to help his argument about utilities, that Mall Road that right-of-way is full of utilities all the way to the east end of our property line. We've battled that. We did lose a couple ash trees along there last year too, so that would be good if you spread the love a little bit.
And I believe there's one other item, Jeff, that we have to circle back on for clarity. I don't want to walk out of here assuming.
Right.
We talked about the drive aisle widths and the parking stall widths. And I think our last discussion is I asked if we could go to 18.5, 24, 18.5 to save the dimensions from pushing further east, as opposed to the full 19.
As I stated before, I'm going to go with all the conditions. I think without pushing the building back, I think you can reduce the drive aisles to make your 19.9s.
I just know it eats into the patio area that has their standard equipment on it, so.
I think, so we've got 8, so we're 2, so the math that I'm doing, we've got 2 extra feet in the middle. We're down 1.5 feet on this side and 0.5 foot on this side.
No, they're both 18.5.
No, the west parking stall is 16.5.
16.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so we've got -2 and then +2, so just by increasing the parking stalls into the drive aisle, you get to a 24-foot drive aisle and 19-foot parking stalls without moving the building.
Back curve. Well, I think it's 18. 60 foot total.
Yeah, I think you can do, I mean, by putting it in 24, you'll achieve the 19
Without moving,
without moving the building.
right,
Because you're giving half one and 1.5 on
yeah,
the other.
exactly.
And then at the 27.7, I mean, you're 18.5, and that's the throat that's going to be most busy because people are going to be going,
Right.
well, both of those are going to be the most busiest right there.
And I will say that,
Plus the handicap parking, I mean, you're reducing the length of the handicap parking stalls there, so I'm kind of gonna stick with my guns on that.
So right now, we're showing 16.5-foot stall length on the west, and 26-foot drive aisle, and then 18.5 on the east. So those are all, that's face to face. So when you put that together, that is 60 feet. Because those dimensions are to the back of curb. So, back of curb total width is 61 feet. So face of curb width is 60.
so I think what they're saying is if you take, if you give 1.5 feet to the western row and 0.5 foot to the eastern row, which will end up with both rows having 19 feet and the drive aisle being 24 feet.
Correct. They're making the argument of the overhang. They want to get the overhang in there and get those.
So
Yeah.
That's where.
So we go 18, 24, 18.
2 feet to give in the middle.
Correct. 18.5 on one side.
Yeah, drawing.
And 18 on the other. So you're half and half, okay.
Do that.
Oh.
Make it to the 24-foot drive aisle. That would save us from impacting the layout of the patio and pushing everything further.
Okay, so let's make the 19 up against the restaurants because of the handicap parking stalls and 18 and a half on the west side, and keep the stall 24. Yeah, the math was.
Yeah, the math was wrong. That's my mistake. So, yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. I don't want to see the building have to
Move
move,
anymore.
right? But there is some space in the middle. That there's 2 feet that can be divvied up, as you know, to make those parking stalls.
The only reason I'm saying this is over at BW3s, they did the same thing. And you go over there, I find it difficult with my truck to get into those stalls, and this truck overhangs, even though I've got a small size truck. So I hate to see this place with not a lot of traffic, but it's going to get increased and have all those cars, you know, bumping into each other, for lack of a better statement.
What's actually straight from the main drive aisle, the same thing's gonna be there, so.
Well, you know my stance, you can work it out, Jeff, but we can vote here.
You ready to vote? Okay. The chair would entertain a motion that we accept case ZA 2014-09 Chick-fil-A with the conditions and variances stated. Do we have, would somebody like to make the motion?
I'll second that motion with all the conditions and variances as stated in the report.
Second,
Um,
move. Yeah, you're gonna move it? Well, you moved?
I guess I'm ready to leave.
Yes, aren't we all?
I don't-
Dave's gonna be playing
I don't mean to be
with it.
difficult, but could I bother Jeff to read his understanding of those so we can walk out of here and I don't have to call or work with
Okay.
Jeff?
Sure. So what we figured out is we figured out why I'm not an engineer, because I haven't been able to subtract 19 from 16 and a half.
Well, same here.
No. But we already talked about the other conditions, but the first condition, just to provide some clarity, the applicant will shorten the width of the drive aisle to not less than 24 feet and allocate 2 feet of that, what was drive aisle, to the western, right, to the western parking row.
Correct.
So it would be 18 and a half feet, right?
Or were we gonna go 19?
19,
19 on the east.
19 on the east and 18 on the west. Does that make sense?
Or
Okay.
as staff determines.
Okay, yeah, that's
Okay,
fine.
that's what we'll do. All right, that sounds good.
It's a math problem today.
Oh, man, I tell you. I know. Thank you, Doug.
Okay,
So number 2.
Number 2 remains the same. Number 3 remains the same. Number 4 remains the same. Number 5 remains the same. Number 6, applicant shall update the landscaping plan to show 5 trees and 205 square feet of landscaped area in the landscape portion of Mall Road. The extent of the landscaping may extend eastward past the eastern boundary of the site, and you know, comma, to the extent practicable due to utility locations. 7 remains the same. 8,
I think we're good from there out,
Yeah.
aren't we?
very good.
Okay. Appreciate that. Thank you for the clarification.
now that Mr. Mills has made our motion for us, do we have a motion to approve ZA 2001, I'm sorry, ZA 2014-09 Chick-fil-A? You're gonna move it?
I'm moving, yes.
Okay.
Move to.
Do we have a second? Second. Do we have a roll call, please?
Mr. Tchaikovsky.
Yes.
Mr. Grody.
Yes.
Mrs. Smith. Mr. Fearing. And Mr. Westfall.
Aye.
Thank you for your
Motion
time
carries.
tonight. Thank
Good
you.
luck. Next on the agenda is a public hearing. We have none. Next the item after that is a informal concept review. We have none. Number 7 is old business. Do we have any old business?
No old business.
Blair?
Number 8,
Doug?
new business. Do we have any new business?
No new business.
Number 9, does the administration have anything?
Nothing aside from the fact that I just wanted to point out that our meeting next month is not at its normal time. It'll be on April 28th.
Okay. Ooh, it will. Okay. Number 10, announcements. Is there any announcements?
No announcements.
Next meeting, as Mr. Mills said, is on Tuesday, April 28th, 2015. The chair will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Motion carried. Meeting adjourned.